Over the years, video games continue to get even bigger and more elaborate than ever, but sometimes it's fun to take a step back to the old school days.
There are tons of retro games that are and always will be absolute classics, and no matter how much time goes by, they are still so fun to play. We've got a list of some retro and retro-inspired games to talk about today, and that you can find pre-owned at GameStop to save some money. Janessa, what's your first pick?
My first pick isn't retro in itself, but the graphics and gameplay are heavily inspired by more old school style games, and that is Moonlighter. Moonlighter is a roguelite, shopkeep dungeon crawler where you play as Will, who grew up always wanting to be that hero, but he was born into a family of merchants, and so he decides to have the best of both worlds, exploring dungeons by night and selling the treasures he finds by day. This game features randomly generated dungeons, requires time management skills like being mindful of the time while you're exploring dungeons before a golem appears to kill you, and stocking your shop with items to sell and making it as successful as possible. So there's this really natural risk and reward system, like, do I go to the next level of the dungeon and die and lose all my loot, or do I play it safe and return to my shop with what I have? Now, I think you're gonna like Moonlighter if you enjoy games with that sort of bird's eye view, pixel art styles, or indie games in general. People who enjoy like old school Zelda games, clearing out dungeons, and fans of Rune Factory games will feel right at home with managing their time between adventuring and tending to daily life duties.
I mean, Moonlighter definitely sounds intense. I mean, I can barely keep up my late night gaming sessions, but you said indie, that sounds great, you know? I'm already overwhelmed. Anyway, let's speed things up a bit because, you know, when I think of racing games, the Burnout series really brings me back to some of the good old days of gaming, which is why I gotta go with Burnout Paradise Remastered. Now, this game is all about control, chaos, and fun. It's different. You know, like new race games focus on things like specifications and realism and the beauty of racing. Burnout don't care about any of that, you know, and good on them. It's an open world racing game where you're encouraged to cause mass crashes while not debilitating yourself in the process. And you can race, but you get rewarded for things like near misses with oncoming traffic and well-timed recklessness. And while there's no NOS, you still get boost by sending your opponents off into the ether. By the way, that's bars. If you want to watch the world burn, this is your game. Instead of driving cars you want to afford, you get to drive cars the way you wish you could, and the way current movies make you think you can on $1 million budget. The closer, it includes a mountain of DLC, including cars that resemble well-known movie vehicles, an entire separate island, bikes, a slew of challenges that'll keep completionists busy for the remainder of summer.
That's a great pick there. We all know that the Burnout series is focused on driving really fast, but you know what else is fast and also loved by retro gamers?
What?
Sonic the Hedgehog. My next pick is Sonicmania Plus. This game returns to the classic Sonic formula that everyone fell in love with so long ago. It's a fast-paced, side-scrolling platformer where Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are at it again on a quest to defeat Dr. Eggman. Sonicmania was released in 2017, but the Plus version brought us physical releases on the PS4, Xbox, and Switch, 2 returning characters, and Encore mode. Now, I love a great platformer, and Sonicmania Plus feels like a more polished version of the old Sonic games while still feeling very retro. Also added is a 4-player competition mode where you can race against your friends, and each play has a different character that traverses the level differently. I'd recommend this game for any Sonic lover, but more than that, anyone who hasn't been introduced to Sonic yet, especially because the movie's coming out. This is the perfect introduction to the classic version of this character.
I mean, Sonic is definitely one of the first franchises that comes to mind when you think about retro gaming. But something else just wouldn't feel right, you know, talking about this kind of stuff. You gotta mention Street Fighter, right?
Totally.
That's why I picked Street Fighter, the 30th anniversary collection. I feel like almost everyone has touched one of these games at least once, but it's pretty simple. There's a tournament in most of them, and everyone's mad at someone in all of them. That's it. There are individual stories, but that's retcon and there's nonsense, so let's not even go into that, okay? The important thing is that there are so many different games. You got Street Fighter 1, Street Fighter 2 and all its variants, Street Fighter Alpha and its series, and the Street Fighter 3 series. All in all, 12 games, all different. Now this compilation is incredible because it's a chance to experience so many different types of gameplay. Every single Street Fighter plays so differently than the other. That's why you may be godlike at one, you might be trash at the other. But the basic fundamentals of, you know, spacing, footsies, zoning, and hard reads, that's all there. It's always been. And it's for the fanatic, you have a museum section, where you can read in-depth notes about the early days of the game and when it was first made. You got canceled ideas, concept art, all that cool stuff. You can even see the individual sprites and their movesets. And the music is bomb. I can hum so many of the tunes by heart, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I listened to them on flight. And try as you might to be cool and say, who does that? A lot of people do. They are bops. But now, we've got our main picks out of the way, let's talk about honorable mentions.
So I've got to throw some love to Cave Story, Dead Cells, and Owlboy.
Oh, great game, Owlboy, yeah. And for me, Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 and Axiom Verge.
Also great games. To check out any of the games we just talked about, talk to a guest advisor at your local GameStop store or visit GameStop.com to find yourself some pre-owned copies to save some money.
It's break time, but don't worry, there's lots more GameStop TV coming right up.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Be sure to leave a comment below with what games you're excited for, and be sure to like and subscribe.